Inaini, Ehihioma, Oloroka, Maino, Mokom Ekomdo, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's so good to have you all today with us at Nigerian Global Affairs Council. Today at NIGAC, we will be taking you through our accountability policy dialogue. But before we do so, I'd like to drop these questions in our mind today. What happened to all the billions being budgeted for yearly? Secondly, what has been done, or what has our leaders done to consistently improve our living conditions and standards, both at the federal level, at the state level, and at the local government level? I bet you I'm not the only one with those questions in mind, because we have our budgets that run into billions every year and at the federal level into trillions. And how has that consistently impacted in our lives or improved our living standards over time? Yet, our elected legislators at the federal and state level, including our local government leaders, get appropriated billions of naira per annum through the appropriated annual budget. Shocking as it sounds, despite these billions disbursed, Nigerians barely see any improvement in the quality of life and living conditions and standards. That's shocking. In the midst of this, as we always do, the Nigerian Global Affairs Council has partnered with Budget Foundation to provide concise data and figure on how much is at stake for the 2020 fiscal year and how we can obviously hold our leaders accountable and demand accountability. On this beautiful sunny afternoon here in Lagos, Nigeria, we will be discussing with some very eminent personalities in the country with us. Permit me to introduce to you Folashayo Onigbinde, a policy fellow with Nigerian Global Affairs Council. Also, we'll be joined with Dr. Sam Amadi. Dr. Sam Amadi is a member of faculty-based university. He will be taking us through holding local government officials and legislators accountable through approved funds. That is for Dr. Sam Amadi. And today we will be also hosting Mr. Gabriel Okeowo. For those who don't know, Gabriel Okeowo is the CEO, Budget Foundation. And my humble self, Abraham Odoja, the Public Relations Officer for Nigerian Global Affairs Council. Before I call on Mr. Gabriel Okeowo, I'd like to implore all to please drop your questions, your comments in the chat box area, and certainly we will do justice to those questions today, because I came with my jotter, if you can see. I don't know if you all came with yours, because I have my pen also to take notes. So please, let's try as much as possible to take notes, to ask questions, because that is what this is about. Ask questions and get clarifications today. And we at the council will make sure, or will do our very best to provide those answers per the guests we have with us today. Next, we'll be taking our guest, Mr. Gabriel Okeowo, who will be taking us through how much the federal government has appropriated and disbursed to our federal legislators and local governments, alongside what they have done with the disbursed funds. That's huge. I bet we have Mr. Gabriel Okeowo with us. Mr. Gabriel, are you with us today?
Thank you very much. I'm in the meeting already. Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you for having me here. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gabriel. So At this point in time, I'll be calling on, for everyone who is joined here, we'll be calling on Mr. Gabriel Okeowo, like I've mentioned earlier, to discuss how much the federal government has appropriated and disbursed to our federal legislators and local government, alongside what they have done with the disbursed funds. So please, ladies and gentlemen, feel free to take down your questions and your contribution. We will welcome all of that. Oh, beautiful. Mr. Gabriel, so good to have you with us today, sir. You look fantastic this afternoon.
Thank you very much. I'm sure I'm not looking like the stress that I've gone through today. Thank you.
It's so good to have you with us, sir.
Yes, sir.
Personally, I have my pen with me here, and I have my jotter ready to take notes, sir.
Okay. All right. Thanks once again. And I'm very sorry if there is a bit of background noise where I am. I actually just concluded a training for a community-based organization somewhere in Isolo here in Lagos. And I just decided to stay back in the hall where we had the training to be able to quickly do this. Thank you. I see people saying welcome to me on the chat. And the topic that have been given to me to talk on, first, I want to appreciate this group having people come together to discuss policy on accountability is one of the steps and is one of the action that we can take to have a better Nigeria, right? And then looking at the government, how do we then hold them account? How do we know what has been allocated or what is disbursed to our legislators, to local government, and generally, right? We are happy to take this up as a responsibility in budget. Our mandate in budget as an organization, which is to simplify data and empower citizens with data. And we just don't want to simplify data. We want citizens to have access to the data, to be able to interact with the data, and then be able to engage with the data, right? Perhaps what has made corruption to foster in Nigeria, it is not really because those that are corrupt want to be corrupt. It is because those that are corrupt are able to hide under the ignorance of the people, right? Sometimes they say what you don't know you have, you don't miss, right? And that is like the cliche that the politicians have been using to rob Nigerians' citizens, right? And that is because when budget is approved, when a plan is made, budget in itself is the second most important document of any nation. The most important document in any nation is the constitution of that nation. After the constitution of the nation, by our definition, the annual budget on a yearly basis that is released is the next most important document of a nation that every citizen should have access to, right? Because it is in the budget document, you are going to be able to see what government is making in revenue, what they are spending in expenditures, what plans they have for you, what project they want to implement in your community, and then what do we have long before? Let me go a bit historically. Before budget came into existence in 2001, in 2011, budget documents was like a sacred document, right? Nobody have access to it. Even when you have access to it, an average Nigerian budget is like 2,000 or 3,000 pages documents. Even if you are a professor, you are going to be bored looking at such a document, right? So what did we then do? We then took up such documents, right? We turned them into what we call social objects, right? A document simplified, designed, using icons, using image, using graphs, you know, to narrate and to replicate data in such a way that citizens, irrespective of their literacy level will be able to relate with the budget. Now, that is a start point of how we can hold government accountable. We need to have access to documents, we need to have access to information, we need to have access to data, and then not just having access to it, but to be able to use that data to engage with government, right? Now, coming down to what has been allocated to our legislators or to our local governments. If I'm able to share my screen, and I don't know if I'm able to do that, I can quickly introduce us. Okay, you may need to permit me to be able to share my screen so that I can share my screen. Let me know when that is possible. I'm good to go. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to quickly just introduce us to a portal that have just been recently developed by Budget, which I will encourage every one of us to sign up to. If you can see my screen. So the portal is called me.yourbudget.com. And I will encourage every one of us. I'm going to drop that in the chat so that we can also try and register. Where is the chat box? Okay, chat. Let me just copy it so that we can have it. Right now, if you log in into me.yourbudget.com, let me hope that my internet will allow. That is one ready-made tool I can easily share with us today, because from that tool, I'm sorry, I'm using my phone as hotspot, so it might be possible that it is not allowing me to log in. Can anybody log in? You can try. If anybody is able to log in, maybe the host, you can share your screen instead. Try and see if you are able to log in.
Okay.
So me.yourbudget.com is a tool that I will want to share with every one of us. Okay, I've been able to log in, that's fine. So if you can see my screen, right? When you come on this portal, this is a portal that Budget has developed to bring data closer to the people. So like what the topic of this webinar is centered around. So if, for example, I'm from Ijebu-Ode, and that's why I can see here allocations that goes to Ijebu-Ode in the month of August, right? And what goes to Ogun State in September. What federal government gets in terms of the revenue that the federal allocation that goes into the federal allocation account that is shared between the 36 states and the 774 local government. So here you can see what goes to Ijebu-Ode, and we can use any other local government. The host, please, which state are you from? And your local government, let's do a test from.
Let's say Kogi State.
Kogi State.
Yes, please.
What local government, sir?
Olama Borough local government. Yep,
Olama Borough local, yes. So on a monthly basis, on the average, right, this is what goes to. So this is one portal that you can come to on a monthly basis to see record of what has gone to your local government this month. And what we are then saying, this portal is there, is a free to use. Budget is not charging for it. All you need to do is register on this portal. You get the allocation from the federal government that goes to your local government on a monthly basis, what goes to your state government on a monthly basis, right? And then it is now not enough for you to get access to this data. But when you have access to this data, relate with the data and then engage with the data. And we know that a lot of us might find it difficult to then take action on the data. And aside from this, there are also platforms that you can go to. We have our tracker platform. We have our budget platform on Twitter. You can follow Budget and Tracker on Twitter. You can also follow Tracker website, which is tracker.ng. I'm going to drop that in the chat too, for you to see tracker.ng. Right, you can follow Tracker for you to see what projects government intend to implement around you. On this place, there is a button here that is called a Take Action button. If you come to this button is appreciating you for taking the steps to even know how much government is allocating to your local government or to your state. And is asking you, do you want to be an active citizen? Because it is when you be an active citizen. And what does it mean to be an active citizen? For an active citizen is simply saying, don't just sit back and complain about government, but be ready to take action. And he said, you can click here to start to take action. When you click on this button, for example, this button is going to lead you to Tracker, where you can go and join to be a community champion. When you register for that, we can then guide you. We can send you information on what to do. On this place, we are saying you can also write and tweet. You can send SMS. You can call your elected officials. And don't let us forget that in a democratic setting, by definition and by design of democracy, the highest entity, decision-making entity in democracy is actually the people. It's actually the people. But what happens most of the time is that the people don't even know that they are the highest decision-making authority. So, and that is why today, the president of Nigeria cannot impeach a senator or an honorable member of House of Representatives, right? But the Senate and the House of Representatives can actually remove a president of Nigeria. Is that not so? That is so. Now, the question is, who can remove a legislator? The only person that can remove the legislator is the people that vote them there. So, if the legislator can remove the president, and the people can remove the legislators, who then is the highest among them? Is the people. And until we drive that message home to every one of us, so 2 million of us, to understand that we, the people, are the highest decision-making body, right? And how can we, that is removing and exercising our rights as the highest decision-making body is one right that we have not really used in Nigeria. The right to recall. We can actually recall. There is an issue of COVID-19 palliative looting that happened recently, where some representatives in some states have been seen on camera, on pictures, to have used palliative donation for their personal dealings, for birthday souvenirs, right? And I see in a particular constituency, them now taking steps to recall, they want to recall such a representative. And don't forget that it has happened before. Many of us know a senator, Dino Melaye. Dino Melaye has been in the house before, and today he's no longer in the house because his people, or the people there, or the election process were able to pull him back, right? As much as that happened within the political setting, it can also happen by the people. The question is why it has not happened till now is because there is nobody that have taken the bold step to lead such an action. Some weeks ago, many of us, myself inclusive, were out on the streets leading protests on EndSARS. And we never believed that there would have been a time in Nigeria where we'll be able to galvanize ourselves together like that to lead a protest. But we did lead that protest. Whether we like it or not, it has gone down the history in Nigeria that the youth of Nigeria came out and led a protest. So the start point to holding our elected officials is for us to exercise our rights as citizens, as active citizens, not just citizens, but active citizens. And there are tools that we can use to do that. If you go to this Shine Your Eye, this link, shineyoureye.org, On this shineyoureye.org, this is a platform where you can have access to information about legislators in Nigeria. Information about legislators in Nigeria, right? When you go to that platform, you will see legislators that are representing you. Most of us don't even know them. We don't know their name. We don't even know their picture. We can't identify them if we see them. But on Shine Your Eye, you will see them. You will see their phone number. You will see their email address. You will know their constituency office, and you will be able to monitor with them. Do we even know that since year 2000, on a yearly basis, since under the regime of President Obasanjo, on a yearly basis, the federal government allocates 100 billion naira yearly for our legislators at the National Assembly. And that fund is a mechanism by democratic setting and by the design of our democratic system in Nigeria to drive grassroots development. Right? Now, what happened to those funds? Those funds, the legislators are meant to use it to develop. There is a project that we call zonal intervention projects, where they nominate projects. And when they nominate projects, an agency of government, right, can then take that project up, and then they implement that project. By design, the legislators are not meant to have access to the fund. They are just meant to nominate projects, and then an agency of government will implement that project. But what kind of projects do they nominate? Do we know? Do they even conduct a need assessment to know the need of their constituents, to know the project that they should implement for them? Most of the time, what we have discovered is projects are nominated yearly, and most of the time, those projects don't even meet the needs of the community. The projects that are nominated based on the self-interest of the politician, because nobody is coming up to tell them their needs. Nobody is calling them to account, right? In fact, most of them, from our record now, of that 100 billion, more than 60% of that money on a yearly basis goes into what we call empowerment projects. And what is empowerment projects? In empowerment projects, these are projects where they say they want to donate, they want to empower people with motorcycle, with grinding machine, with, such kind of, with trainings. And what we have discovered is most of the time, those empowerment projects don't see the light of the day. When you see pictures of politicians donating motorcycles or grinding machine, we have also seen cases where the truck that brought such grinding machine, the truck is still parked right there on the field where it was distributed to the beneficiaries. They only distributed for picture taking. After the picture taking, after news, the media houses have taken video of beneficiaries collecting the machines. They collect those equipment back from them, give them envelope of 5,000 naira. They go back to their house, and we say that, and such a politician will show us picture and say he has delivered dividend of democracy to his people. They are able to do that because many people are not calling them out to hold them to account. In the project they implement, they will tell you they are not the executive. The executive is meant to implement projects. They are not part of the bidding process, but go and find out. Experience has also shown us that most of the contractors that get this project are their contracting organization. They are the ones that have the organization. They are the ones that bid for the project. They are the ones that do the project. But can I set an example where community actions have taken place and a change comes? There is an example of a school in Kaduna State that was built with substandard products, right? Children sitting down in the school, from the decking of that school, you can see the iron rod that was used to deck the building. Now, that is a disaster. Sorry about that noise. Sorry about that. That is a disaster waiting to happen. But by virtue of our PTOs, our project tracking officer, saying that I'm building the capacity of the community to speak out. They spoke out, right? In fact, they actually called in on a radio program we hold in Kaduna State. They spoke out. The governor of Kaduna State sent a team to that school. They assessed the building. They confirmed that the building was built with substandard products, and the governor ordered that the building should be pulled down and that the contractor should be made to build another one, and the contractor did build another one. Why was that possible? It was possible because the community took the initiative, they took action, they spoke out for their community, and then change comes, right? When we are not able to speak out, what will happen is that politicians will continue to hide under our docility. They will continue to hide under our ignorance, and they will use that to their advantage to rob us of our commonwealth. The democracy by setting has created it such that there is check and balance in the system of government, and that is why it looks as if agency or organization like budget, we are always calling them out, we are always crying out, right? And because the more we cry out, the more today now, some of them see us as friends. Some of us see us as antagonists, right? And they know where they see us as friends. When they need us, they call us friends. We are supporting many of them, right? When we give out a report that does not go in their favor, then they see us as an antagonist, right? But that will not stop us from doing what we are supposed to do. And that is why we are raising the voice of citizens. We are creating different resources, different tools on a monthly basis, on a regular basis, that we encourage people to be able to have access to information and be able to use that information to hold their government to account. There are several tools. I've given us some. I can also drop on the chat box. There is also the OpenState.ng. OpenState.ng. That is a portal. OpenState. That is OpenState. Let me write it again. OpenState.ng. That is a portal you can go to, right? And you can have access to all the budget documents of your state, including their audited reports, right? Because the audit report is actually the best document you can work with, right? When you want to know how much they have actually spent. Any government can tell you they can budget for trillions when they don't even have capacity to generate thousands, right? But their audit report will show you their capacity, what they actually generated in revenue and what they actually spent in expenditures, right? And what we have also seen, as I begin to bring this to an end, what we have also seen from the state is that most of us are also in the habit of raising our voice at the federal level. We are always shouting on the government, on the federal government, on the National Assembly, forgetting the states, that the state has a role to play. The state has a role to play. And our start point to engaging with state government is around this season. This season, as I'm talking to you right now, many state governments are proposing their budgets. They are presenting their budgets to their House of Assembly, right? This is the time. And House of Assembly are meant to call for public hearing. And to be sincere with you, they are actually calling. What they might do is not to call in a manner that a lot of people will be informed and be part of the process, right? But we have an instrument, and we can demand any information from government. There is an instrument that is called the Freedom of Information Act. The Freedom of Information Act is an instrument that we can use to write to government. This is a group. This group Nigerian Global Affairs Council can write to any government in Nigeria using the Freedom of Information Act to request for any public information, and they are bound to release such information to you. If we make use of all these instruments, all this resource from budgets from other organizations, and I know that there are several other organizations that are also doing greatly, that are also doing well in Nigeria, that are also releasing resources. If we make use of these tools that we are releasing to the public, they are tools that are capable of supporting us and helping us with skills, with information, with data that we need to be able to hold our elected representatives, elected officials to account. I will reiterate again that the greatest instrument that we can use to hold government to account is to use the instrument of data. Is to use the instrument of data. When we have access to data, we should interact with the data and use the data to engage with government. Permit me to stop there for now. Thank you very much, and I'm able to answer your questions. Thank you. You are mute if you are talking, you are mute, yeah.
That was very, very fantastic, sir. Very, very fantastic. In fact, the moment I saw the figure from Kogi State, immediately my head started banging. Immediately, because I never knew we had access to that amount of funds on a monthly basis. And I feel strongly that if a whole lot of citizens, the citizens of Nigeria, know how much goes to their constituency, their local government, their states, monthly, and all of that, I feel to a large extent, it might actually trigger a lot of things like response and the demand for accountability. Because if you put the people and the resource going to the states on same level, you will see that there is a lot of defects. There is a lot lagging behind. And yet, every month, we see how much these people tell us or what they keep saying to us that they have been able to do and whatnot, all stories and all of that. It's quite impressive, or it's been enlightening having you today with us on this particular policy dialogue, sir. Just briefly, before I call on Folasayo for a few minutes before we go into the questions, I'd like to briefly tell us for a few minutes what Budget Foundation is about. Budget Foundation was founded in 2011. Budget is a civic organization that applies technology to intersect citizen engagement with institutional improvement to facilitate societal change. A pioneer in the field of social advocacy melded with technology, Budget uses an array of tech tools to simplify the budget and matters of public spending of citizens, with the primary aim of raising standards of transparency and accountability in government. Budget is in constant partnership with civil society, public institutions, and the media, chiefly in the areas of fiscal analysis, civic technology, and data representation, just like we have seen. I mean, next we're going to be having Folasayo Onigbinte, a policy fellow with NIGAG, to share her thoughts briefly, just to share her thoughts, and then we now move on straight to the question and answer segment. Folasayo, are you with us, please? I bet we all have our questions. Please note them or drop them in the chat box so we can pick them. Folasayo, are you there? Folasayo, are you there?
I'm here.
Oh,
yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. So for those who don't know, Folasayo Onigbinde is a policy fellow with NIGAC, that's Nigerian Global Affairs Council. Folasayo, over to you. Let's get your thoughts. Can you share your point of view on the topic being discussed today? Let's get to hear from you, please, Folasayo.
Okay, I want to share like a slide, but I don't think it's working. Can I send it to you?
Okay, I believe the admin.
No, Folasha, you can share slide from your end. Just put on your video and share slide. We've allowed multiple share of slides.
Okay.
You will just see share screen. So you can easily share your screen from there.
Okay. Okay. Let's see it. I'm used to it. I'm sorry.
Okay, you will see your share screen. So if you see share screen, can you see the share screen?
No.
At your own end of your laptop, you should see share screen at the bottom part of your screen, where you have participants.
You have
chats.
where you have exactly where you have your chat box, your record, reactions, and all of that.
Okay.
But yeah, you see share
Okay,
screen.
you see share screen there. Can you see the share screen?
Exactly. So tap on it, please. Thank you.
So just click on the share screen and go to the specific document you want to share that is open.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Oh, great.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
The document.
Okay, I think it's opening up now.
Okay. Can you see it now?
It's still not up yet.
Not yet. Okay, so I think for Lashala, you need to open the document first. So once you open the document first, you will now share your screen and share that document specifically.
Okay.
So you need to open the document first. Open the document first before you actually share.
Open. Let me stop sharing and start again.
Okay, for last year, don't worry. We have the document now, so we'll try to open from our own end.
Okay. All right. Can you see it now? Can you see it now?
Yes, we can see it now. Yes.
Okay, yes, we can see it now.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Folasha. I've worked with Budget before, but I'm at the business arm of Budget right now called Fitila. So I will just try to go through the slide and explain what Budget does and how we use data to represent what our governments are spending. Okay. Budget. Let me just give you like insight about budgets. Okay, budgets. We are an innovative enterprise of passionate people whose operation is to simplify Nigerian budgets and public data, making it accessible to general public to aid participatory governance. So Budget was founded in 2011 and is a civic organization. The civic organization that applies technology to intercept citizen engagement with institutional improvements to facilitate a pioneer in the field of social advocacy mainly with technology. Budget uses the array of tech tools to simplify budget and make matters of public spending for citizens with public aim of raising standard of transparency and accountability in government. So in 2014, Budget established Tracker. And Tracker is a community of active citizens who track the implementation of government policy in their various community to ensure service delivery. From so far, Tracker has visited 586 local government areas across 26 states in Nigeria, and they have tracked over 15,859 projects in 7,589 towns, and they have organized 7,612 town hall meetings across the country. So this is like a short infographic that shows what Tracker has done so far. They have visited 26 states. They have tracked more than 15,000 projects, and so on. So how do they work? Tracker is a okay, I think I've explained that. So right now, so far they have tracked 11,769 63 projects and 76 community posts and 74 project reports. The reason why we are doing this dialogue or policy dialogue is to see how local governments are spending our own our tax, and it is somehow outrageous. And you can see this 9 month FAC allocation to local government for Lagos State, from Alimosho down to Apapa. Because for Alimosho, we have 6.43 billion. In my local government at Lagos Mainland, let me say Lagos Mainland is still 3.85 million, which is very big, and they cannot see what they are using the funds for. So, what are the things citizens can do to change this, to get our voice heard, and then to change this motive of spending outrageously? The first thing is to follow budget handles and other handles like Budget NG, Tracker NG, Yaga, Citizen Gavel, Paradigm NG, EIE Nigeria, Connected Dev, and Civic Hive, and Feminist School. These organizations are the ones that have been speaking since many years, and they are still not tired of speaking about government budget, how they are spending it, about how what they are using our money, our taxes for, and all the projects they are tracking, all the projects from all states in Nigeria, including local government. So next, okay, let me go to the next slide. And the second thing you can do is to know the allocations to your local, state, and federal government. Okay, Mr. Gabriel has talked about me.yourbudget.com. So I will show you the platform once again. So if you want to check what the federal or state government allocation, you can go to me.yourbudget.com. Then from there, you can see this page where you can fill like a sign up form. Then after signing up, you sign in. So, sign in, and from there you can check allocation for each local government. For instance, I'm on Lagos mainland. The money donated to Lagos mainland is in August 2020 is 503 billion, a million, I mean. So, and for the whole Lagos state is 11.4 billion. So you can check for all states, for all local governments, all the 774 local governments in Nigeria. And another way you can help as a citizen is you can see different projects that have been allocated to be a community champion. If this project is allocated to your area and you see that it's not, they have not started or be stopped, or the project has ended and it's not functioning. So you can easily tweet to budget or send we have a chat bot on our website. You can chat us up to so that we can what do you say, you can present what is happening in your area, and then we will follow up as an organization. So the next one you can do as a citizen is to know your representative with their numbers and email. I feel like some people do not know that you can even get your representative phone number and their emails. Now, EIE, which is enough Nigeria, has simplified this, and which you can go to www.shineyoureyes.com. So on Shine Your Eyes, for instance, I checked for senator in Abia State. Okay, yeah, and you can see that I have the name, the phone number, the address, the email. So you can send a mail to your local government chairman. You can send a mail to your senator. Send a mail to your representative, and there is information. Okay, and what's the fifth one is join us. Sorry. Join us in tracking projects around you. Become a community champion. How can you become a community champion? Go to our website, tracker.ng, click on the community champion, then you register, then you can join the community champion to track the project, and we'll be giving you feedback. And we have like a representative that will be helping you with any information that you need. Thank you so much. I think this will be the end.
That was fantastic from you today. Thank you so much for sharing your point of view on this. I mean, so for everyone who is listening or for everyone who is following the conversation, it is very, very important that the people know that they are the most powerful. They are the most powerful force to demand accountability, to demand transparency. As clearly stated by Folasayo and Mr. Gabriel, we have a platform here that can clearly give us the phone number of our elected representative. We get to see the figure that is being marked per local government, per state. I mean, month by month, per each fiscal year. The onus is on us to go back and think again. Currently, I do not have light in my house. I'm running a generator. Is that what our budget is supposed to cover? Do I pay for light and do not get light? Am I being charged for water and I don't get it? Because in Nigeria, what we have today is a system where we pay for our security, we pay for almost everything the government is supposed to do for us. Now, away from the federal government, let's even look at it this way. So the legislators we elect ourselves, who go there and speak all kind of English and everything, still become part of the problem of the society. The same people who come up sometimes or are imposed on us end up repeating the same menace or the same problem we're faced with. The onus is on you and I now to utilize these platforms we have seen, get accurate information and facts, and demand accountability. I mean, how else do we say it again? But anyways, let me pause at this point. Let's look at some few questions, and hopefully Mr. Gabriel will be on the line to address some of those questions and feedback, because I mean, I'm boiling personally. I'm boiling after I saw the statistics for my local government, and almost everybody here knows the state of Kogi today, or the state of most local governments in Nigeria. Yet you have millions being earmarked for these places. But let me pause a bit and go over to some few questions. I mean, please before I start, let's feel free to drop our questions in the in the chat box, and then certainly we would make sure it is addressed. We have 10 more minutes to do that, to do our questions, and then we'll go over to Dr. Sam Amadi of the member of faculty based university. So we have 10 minutes to engage you on all questions. So Mr. Gabriel, I have these questions just came in, and I'd like if you can address them. The question says, at what point can it be said that budgets are effectively and efficiently utilized?
Thank you very much for the question. The effectiveness and efficiency of budgets utilization, at what point we will have to wait to see budget implementation reports, and then in the audit reports. It is the audit report that can show to us the effectiveness and efficiency of budgets, of how much that has been spent to do what, right? This information is available by other programs that some other other international agencies implement in Nigeria, right? States in Nigeria, federal government of Nigeria are mandated to release the audit reports, right? So audit reports is a tool that can provide us information to really, because even what we see in budget implementation reports or in budget reports, in budget plan, is not an information that we can take to bank, really, because budget is not equal to actual. And then what we see as actual in budget implementation reports is it has not been validated as a true actual until we see the audit report that is released by Auditor General of the Federation for the federal government, or by the Accountant General of the state or state government. So audit reports is one way that we can see what has been spent and how much can be spent. Also, we can also see that in how well our government is representing us or is responding to our needs, right? If you have a community that has a need and you know how to engage, and you engage with your representative, and your representative is able to put your needs into, nominate your needs into the budget of the federation, and then that need gets allocation, and the allocation gets implemented, and the release of budget gets implemented, right? And the project is implemented well. Then we are seeing effectiveness and efficiency of budgets. I hope.
No, I found the back.
Thank you very much.
This road doesn't link now.
Sorry, please, can we turn off our microphones? We're getting please, can we turn off our microphones, please? Thank you very much, Mr. Gabriel. So I want to ask, because I am just seeing how detailed your platform is. Information is power and it's key. In a society like ours that we live in, where quite a lot of people do not even know of a platform like yours, because I feel if some of this information, if quite a lot of people know about this information or this platform, it will put people in a more, how do I put it now? They are better informed to ask the right questions or to demand the right set of answers from their leaders. Because I don't know why, for instance, in the budget, it is stated that, they should make, or they're supposed to rehabilitate a building or a road around my place. And then maybe it is captured as implemented, whereas we're still using, maybe we have to use bike to even cross some of those spots, or trek at some point to pass some of those very bad spots, whereas it has been implemented. Don't you think it would be very nice if a lot is done to actually get some of this information out there? Because I am just getting to know of some of these links and sites, for instance, for the first time today. I mean, because if a lot of people know these things, for instance, my state, I belong to quite a lot of platforms. Today, now that I have access to me.yourbudget, I know every month I can actually download or screenshot the revenue going to local government or to states and drop it on some of these platforms for the people themselves to see these things. Now, what are the plans to see that? I mean, this is just Kogi State. How then do you think it will be more effective to get most of this information out there? Because I bet you a lot of people don't know.
Yes.
I didn't know my legislator's number is somewhere that I could just easily copy. Just like you mentioned also, during the EndSARS, you saw that at some point, they started circulating people's numbers on social media. Oh, Tinubu's number, please just call him and pray for him. Or just text him, just say something to him. Don't you think if the people have access to these things, they can talk directly to their legislators, or at some point demand better governance, better leadership from their followers?
Exactly.
What are the plans to get these things out there? Basically,
right. They plan to get it. They plan to get it out there. They plan to make this information go viral. Budget will not only take responsibility for it. Budget is just an organization that decide, right, to take up a mission or a vision of educating Nigerian citizens. Every one of us needs to educate ourselves and understand democracy, understand that we need to be part of government, right? So on our part, yes, we are using the social media, which is like a platform that amplifies voices, right? But we also know that there are several people that are not on social media. And that is why we are also calling for people to register as a community champion. When you register as a community champion from January 2021, we are going to be going from one state to the other, holding what we call Community Champions Forum, where we are going to be empowering, giving, supplying information about that can help citizens to hold governments accountable to people that have identified and registered to be community champion. And then we'll encourage them to go out, to go to their community, on their streets, in their area, to go and talk more. The more we are educated, the more we know, the lesser it will be, or the harder it will be for politicians to be corrupt. The level of corruption in Nigeria is to the extent of the level of ignorance in Nigeria. The more we know, the more we have access to information, the harder it will be for them to be corrupt. The harder it will be for them to embezzle the funds, right? Whether we like it or not, now they know. So what we need to do is, every one of us, and you are using a good platform too. Like this platform you are using is a good platform. Now it is for every one of us here now at this meeting today. How many of us? 26 of us on this meeting today, to be able to live here. And if 26 of us can inform another 5 each, right? We are going to be having over 100 persons that we have access to this information, 100 persons informing another 100, and like that, we are going to spread this information. I tell you, it is better. It is better than where we came from. Definitely better. But we have not gotten to where we are going to. So the more we are able to talk, the more we are able to say this thing, the better it will be for Nigeria as a whole and for every one of us.
It has actually been very, very interesting speaking with you. I know very well you are an expert in this field. I mean, you've been on this for a very long time. But I can assure you that you've heard of this word extra budgetary expenditure. I mean, so the ones that are even budgeted, we have not seen the value for these things.
Mm-hmm.
We are yet to hold these people to be accountable per the one that have been budgeted for. Yet we hear extra budgetary expenditure. I mean, the last time, what's it called? Niger Delta Development Commission was grilled. We had instances where they spilled into 2019 and 2019 spilled into 2020, even when these budgets have not even been approved, or an instance where a fiscal year had been closed. Yes, it has ended, yet you had people still spending into the previous year. And then they tell you, oh, it is captured. Oh, it is this. Whereas these funds were supposed to have been remitted some way, somehow, into the federal allocation or coffers, because that fiscal year or that financial year has ended. But you have instances where they are not even done with that particular fiscal year, yet we're having extra budgetary expenditure. Can you shed more light on this, on how some of these things can be tackled effectively or efficiently?
So thank you very much. The way they can be tackled is engagement. What we later saw the National Assembly do, the way they drilled NDDC, for example, as you use as an example, is what can actually tackle this. Because you see, I mentioned earlier that democracy system of government is a system that creates check and balance for itself, right? As much as the executive, the president can assume absolute power or may want to take absolute power, the legislators are those that are there to play oversight function over them, right? But what has happened over the years is that both the executive and legislators have had too much handshakes. And you know that kind of handshakes of you cover my back, I cover your back. And that is why we don't see a lot of things happen, right? In some years ago, under the same administration, some years ago, we had instances where executive will send budget to the proposed budget to the National Assembly, and National Assembly will shred the budget, right? In fact, there was a particular year that they call it that they padded the budget. There was another year that they shredded the budget, and you had ministers crying out to say, I cannot work with this budget. This is not the budget I submitted. And now we also have a system now where executive proposed budget and we don't see any noise. And that is because there is some handshaking that is going on. If legislators play their oversight function the way they should, right, they are actually the one to forestall. So don't let us take NDDC. Has anybody looked into NNPC before? NNPC is like the highest revenue making agency in Nigeria.
Somebody said the day they look at NNPC or CBN and all of
honestly,
that day we'll just set those places ablaze.
That's what someone said. You get, and yet NNPC runs an expenditure without the oversight of the legislators. NNPC is an executive arm that should submit his budget to legislators, but they don't, and nobody does anything because, we wouldn't know. Why is it that they are not able to hold them to account? Could it be that there is an handshake and they understand themselves very well? So the buck still lies with our legislators. They are the ones that are represented because they are the people. Representing the people, they are the ones that can really drive the change that we are looking for. So and that's why it looks as if the legislators has come to us before, right? To say, we are always hammering on them. Can't you look at other arms of government? No, we are hammering on you.
But sorry to cut you. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
At some point under the Jonathan administration, I know we're running out on time. Maybe this will just be the last one.
Yes, please.
At some point, yes. Under the Jonathan administration, there was an audit of NNPC for some period. And then even while Sanusi Lamido was crying foul of some amount of money missing, Jonathan said, so at some point this amount will come up, because if this amount is actually missing, it will show because of the amount we're talking about.
Besides, yes.
Exactly. So do you think, or do you suggest Nigerians should begin to demand accountability from some of these parastatals or some of these agencies?
That is the way to go. We need to, as any one of us, NNPC have released recently audit reports for some previous years. I think audit reports till 2018 is out now. Have you checked? Do we even know that there are subsidiaries of NNPC? Do we know that we have 3 refineries in Nigeria that do not make profits? Do we know that we have subsidiaries of NNPC, several of them, that are not making profits, and yet they have DGs, they have staff that are largesse, that are collecting fat salary? Can you establish an organization that is not making profit and you keep paying the staff? And you are not just paying them peanuts. They are still flying private jets. They are still going for training abroad. And yet they are not making profit. Year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, year 6, consistently. And we are not doing anything. A lot needs to be done. Every one of us here, if you join those that we have empowered before now, we have added to the number of active citizens in Nigeria that will demand transparency and accountability. And little by little, every one of us will contribute our bits. And little by little, some of us are hopeful that we are going to get the Nigeria of our dreams. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you very, very much for joining us today, sir. In fact, I am happy that NIGAC has consistently organized policy dialogue sessions like this. And we're happy to have had you join us today to shed more light on some of these very topical issues within the Nigerian system, sir. Thank you very, very much for joining us today, sir.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah.
For everyone who is joining in or who's been following the conversation, it's been fantastic. We just had Mr. Gabriel Okeowo, the CEO, Budget Foundation, who just discussed how much the federal government has appropriated and disbursed through platforms that he made mention of, which I believe are currently in the chat box. YourBudget.com, TrackerNG, ShineYourEye.com, OpenState.ng, amongst quite a host of others that we're going to be finding out shortly. So please, let's make sure we maximize these platforms, and hopefully we know the Nigeria of our dreams is going to happen in our times, hopefully. So thank you very much, everyone, for staying with us. We have Dr. Sam Amadi with us. Dr. Sam Amadi, as I earlier mentioned, is a member of faculty for Bayes University. And Dr. Sam Amadi will be telling us on holding local government officials and legislators accountable through appropriated funds. Dr. Sam Amadi, I know you're with us. Oh, wow. So fantastic, sir, having you join us today, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sam.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. We have our pen, we have our jotters, and we're willing to get everything you're going to be telling us today, sir.
Well, I'll try and make it as short as I can because I have to be on studio in a very short time now. But anyway, thank you for inviting me. And it has been a busy day, but I joined and listened to some of the discussion on the presentation about the budgets. And I want to say that we've had remarkable improvement. In the past, we didn't have access to know how much is being budgeted for what, for any projects across the country. So with technology, and of course, groups like Budget and others, we are now able to real-time information and widespread access. So that's something to commend. Again, in the past, I remember when Dr. Konjuwala was Minister of Finance in the first tenure, in her first comment as Minister of Finance, the idea came up about publishing maybe every month allocation of FAC to states. It was fashionable, and after some time, I wrote a piece to argue that some of the problem with accountability projects is that oftentimes they do not engender the level of accountability you expect. So what I'm trying to say is that there's also always a difference between accountability framework and real actual accountability. And why is this so? Because of the gap between process and people. So if we have good processes but people are not maybe willing, able, for whatever reason, to utilize them. That becomes problem. Okay, now coming to local government administration, I would like to start from the constitutional framework, which is that on the face of it, we could say that our federation is based on a tripartite federation. So conventionally, federations are usually between the federal and the state, or in many places like in Switzerland and elsewhere, between the federal and what sub-units like counties or cantons, like in Switzerland. So, but we have a federation that seems to say something like between the federal government and the state government and the local government. So many people have found issues with that layering, that the state government is between the federal and state. And under President Obasanjo, again, Okonjo-Iweala, there was an attempt to correct seeming lack of accountability in local government through then a legislation that kind of provided for, we have what we call the joint account in the constitution, which means that the money for local government are paid to states to onward maybe disbursement to local governments. And so the idea was that states kind of feel they're the custodian of local government funds, and therefore they have oversight and management and control authority over those funds. So what Okonjo-Iweala and the OBJ government wanted to do was to insulate the state from it by creating a process by which the federal government itself can control and monitor the use of that fund. So, but the matter went to Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ruled against the federal government, arguing that once you've paid money to that account, you just have no obligation. Your job is to pay money to the local government, to the states, and then nothing you can do. And that's what is behind the latest executive order, which some of us have argued has some problems. So the constitutional framework, therefore, is such that local governments are put in a position where they are seemingly subjugated to the state government. And so state government that don't generate the fund, because most of the local government, they derive, apart from the state allocations, the bulk of, apart from Lagos perhaps, that have significant IGR, many states don't have IGR, so to say. And so the bulk of local government spend comes from the budgetary allocation. And again, the states control that. The federal government that should create that control is not there. And so one of the things people have argued that in the literature of development, it's always good to give incentive for control to the person who has no incentive to spend. So if a federal government that doesn't spend has oversight over the state that spends, then the incentive to be vigilant to the oversight is there. And so what we're learning is that sometimes the design of federalism, the legal framework for federal governance, determines to a large extent accountability at sub-national levels. That's number one. Number two is that the work of groups like Budget and all of you and the platform hosting us now, all this work are commendable. This non-profit, civil society intervention in mainstream accountability is important. But what are the downside of today's neoliberal development model is the idea that we want to solve all problems through private sector. We want to solve problem of governance through non-profit and not through government. And so I will be arguing that one of the best solutions is also to create at the state level accountability legal framework that are enforceable for accountability. And I'll show you one example. When I wanted to run for governor in 2018 primary, under the ABGA party, I designed what I called community action program for community action for community action plan for prosperity. And their notion was very simple, that you needed to reorganize local governance. And the first thing was to create what I called bi-monthly public budgeting. And the notion behind it was very simple, borrowed from the state of Syria in Brazil. There's a book called Good Governance in the Tropics by Professor Judith Tendlin of MIT, many years, I think in 1996. And that book showed example of some states in Syria, in Brazil, and other places, where what was then popular was what we call community budgeting, open budgeting. So the idea here is, if allocations are tagged for projects, and those projects are matter for community or open budgeting. So in my own plan, I plan to have what I call a standard executive council in every local government in Imo State. What that means is that the elected chairman, elected councillor, and elected chairman and secretaries of town unions constitute an expanded executive. So their job will be every half yearly, they would meet in a public open place by law, authorized by law, and the NGOs and members of that communities in that local government will be part of that deliberation, where they establish budgets for that half year. After the end of that half year, they come again and review and say, so public budgeting, a much more democratic budgeting, should be a complement to the kind of work that budget and others are doing. And then the second tie of this proposal, innovation, was also what I call quarterly expenditure review sessions, which is public. Now, what do you do? So you benchmark the projects, capital projects identified in the half-yearly public budgeting. And in a quarter, half of that half year, the community, the local government chairman and councillors, and elected local government chairman of town unions that have mandates by law. This is not by discretion. This is the first law would be the Local Government Reform Act. So that law authorizes that these officials of town unions across the state will participate in a quarterly public expenditure review session. So all this information that budget and others are creating, digitalizing, and helping us to have easy access, will now be part of a much more intense political engagement at the local level. So what is missing in good governance projects is the political aspect. We've done the technical work, which is provide information, digitalize it, create access, follow the money, track the implementation. Then what needs to complement that is political action, a kind of civic engagement that can create incentives for good behavior, good public finance behavior, and that can also create sanctions for bad public behavior. So my own style or preference or proposal will be to connect the technical and the political, meaning that give information to those who are organized, to an organized platform that can activate those information. So when I did a research across the country to look at how the public advertisement by Ministry of Finance Incorporated on the allocations, their quarterly allocation reports on newspapers across the country, how much consciousness has it generated? How much activism at the level of engagement with government has it generated? And what is there evidence of change of behavior arising from utilization of these data sets? So I started looking at the data. I started looking at asking questions and trying to think through the process. And it became clear to me that really we may not have had much success because these data lie dormant, not utilized, because the people are poor, the people are disorganized, the people don't have the leisure to use this data and use them to compel performance. So if you have data, but you don't have a people with incentive, with capability, and organized in a manner that they can use the data, they have both the incentive, the leisure, the capability to use the data to engage and compel performance or punish non-performance. I can argue that those technical niceties and innovation may not result in the kind of transformation that you're looking at. So there's need, therefore, in local government to utilize existing structures. Town unions are very powerful. Age grade systems in the local government, especially in some of the not too urbanized, maybe not exactly like Lagos. In many of those communities in Ekiti, Osho, Warenimo, you will still see that these traditional institutions are active and they leverage on very compelling traditional norms and sanction systems. So it might be useful as the local government to see how we can, connect them to these resources. It might be useful to see how we can connect them to the information and the competencies that we are building around public finance in Nigeria. The other issue that's very critical is that many of us forget that the local government is designed to be democratically elected. Across the country, there are accountable local governments where elections, no matter how bad elections are, but where elections have been held, and those who are exercising authority are those who are elected in that process. At a point in Nigeria, it became fashionable to presume that local governments are not to be elected. I had already argued before that if I was Attorney General, the first thing I would do is to ask Mr. President to sign an executive order. There will be no allocations to any local government that's not elected, because by definition in the Constitution, a local government that's not elected is not a local government. Just like we can have a state government that is run by somebody who was not elected. Even if the election is a sham, what matters is that there are persons who are elected. So you can't run a local government with a sole administrator, with appointees. Those local governments are no longer local governments and shouldn't have any funding. So it's important to establish democratic governance in the local government. And when we do that, then we can now start fixing the other pieces of a transparency and accountability system. The last framework I will raise is that we have to think again around decentralizing not just governance, but also activism. Many of the NGOs I've worked with or collaborated with are urban-based NGOs. So at local government, by the way, there are the members of local government, those who reside in local government. Nigeria has an aggressive rural-urban migratory pattern. So people are leaving local government because there are no local economies. When I was running for election, one of the things that surprised me, I kept data. I didn't find any local government or any community in Imo State outside the city centers that had anything close to a local economy. Corporations, industries, cottage industries, where people who live in the local government work and earn a living. So if you have a local government that has no thriving economy, then it's very likely that the people who are left in those local government, apart from very urban centers, local government, will be persons who don't have the leisure, the capability, even the economic status to engage in budget tracking, engage in public finance monitoring. And so it's important to recreate economic prosperity in the local government. And that's why when I was running for election, I proposed a similar thing that Governor Emma Obara did in the 60s that made the Southeast economy the fastest growing in the world. That's focused on rural industrialization, cottage industry, so that when you create an economy in the local government, people stay back in local government, and the local government develop some level of organizing that enables citizens in those areas to have both the interest and ability to hold leadership accountable and to examine public finances. So if you have, for example, these public budgeting and public expenditure sessions, then it's in those sessions that you can second guess the data from local government council with the data you harvest from these data platforms, whether it is follow the money, budget it, track it, whatever name it is. So we need to, the heart of my contribution is simply that accountability in governance, accountability in public finance at local government should be a convergence of technical innovation and governance redesigning. The technical innovation is the process of creating, digitalizing, and making accessible information about projects, finances, public finance, projects, project management, project development, make this information available. That's technical innovation. So we have moved far on that. We've done well that people can plug and play, plug and harvest information. But the critical question is now how to use that information. And I'm saying the best way to use that information is for us to recreate political capability, political organizing at the local level. Because if people are not capable, if they don't create platforms by which they can have those conversations at local government, platforms by which they can interface with local government officials, platforms mandated by law, not discretionary. Because if you know local government chairman who wants to misappropriate the fund, and most of them are appointees who are going to be appointed by the governor and whose work will be to just transfer back the money to the governors. None of them will be willing to invite town unions. No, they won't do that. But if by law, there's a mandated half-yearly open budget, every quarter there's an open public finance, public expenditure session, review session, that they are mandated by law to invite local government officials, town union officials, then it's no longer discretional. The answer to development deficit is to use law to compel good behavior, not to keep preaching about good behavior, and not to allow too much discretion. You use law, the law that works with two principles. One is the principle of incentive. Incentive principle tells us why people behave the way they do. The incentives are structural. So a governor who doesn't have a local government, who has an appointed local government, and who has no legal penalty for not doing a particular thing, will not do it, or it is being equal. We design governance as if government will be run by criminals. We shouldn't design governance as if government will be managed by good people. So you design governance against the perverse incentive. You design governance to create positive incentives. That's number one. Number two is that you also design governance to remove what we call asymmetry of power. That means power is at the heart of impunity and lack of accountability. So if you equalize power in the local government by building the political cloud of those who ought to demand for accountability, by putting them in a position where they have the law authorizes them to make those requests, and the law authorizes them to participate in a process that will give them those information, then you are strengthening accountability. You can't create accountability by providing only technical tools that without creating incentive to use them and creating incentive for authority to allow people to use them. If we don't do that, we will not have accountability. And so the history of economic development in the third world has been that where leaders have used law to solve two problems. One, the problem of incentive incompatibility. Two, the problem of power asymmetry. They have been successful. East Asia is a good example. Some part of Brazil gives us good story. We are neoliberal development theories argue for a private sector-based development, and we create tools, magical tools, but we don't change the incentive structure through law, and we don't change the power dynamics between those who rule and those who don't rule. Means that we will not have, it will be a mirage. Those tools will be more than too sophisticated for the people. At the end of the day, when you go back and do evaluation and monitoring, it is discovered that in spite of these tools on the platform, people are not holding their leaders accountable because you have mismatched tools with people. You have not connected technology to politics. So my approach is, let's converge technology with politics by recreating the incentive structure and the power relations at the local level. When you do that, people will be empowered to ask questions and to follow the money. Thank you very much.
Dr. Sam Amadi, for joining us today. It's been very interesting. I mean, I've learned quite a lot. And I can see that to a large extent, with what you've said today, I think Nigerians are missing it from the quality of people we even elect in office. Because with everything you've said, if implemented, Imo State should be an El Dorado of prosperity at the end of the day. That was fantastic from you, sir. But now, I know to a large extent, quite a lot of people don't even really know who you are. So before I go into the question, let me briefly read out just a brief as to your profile, your citation, who you are to the people. And for everyone listening, Dr. Sam Amadi is the former chairman of the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission. He has a fellow at the Care Center for Human Rights Policy at the Harvard Kennedy School of Government. Until December 2010, Mr. Amadi held the position of special advisor to the President of the Senate of Nigeria, Director of the Center for Public Policy and Research in Lagos, Nigeria, and Senior Legal Officer at the Human Rights Law Service in Nigeria. He is a member of the Nigerian Bar Association. He was a senior counsel at the Ganifa Amic Chambers from 1993 to 1995, and an associate with Olisa Agbakoba and Associates from 1995 to present. He was also part of the Defense Council for Kensaro Wiwa, an author and environmentalist who was killed by the Nigerian military. Dr. Sam holds a doctorate degree of law from Harvard. Sam also holds an LLB from University of Calabar, BL from Nigerian Law School, LLM from Harvard Law School, and MP from Harvard's Kennedy School of Government. He was the lead consultant strategic engagement with actors in the Southwest and Southeast regions organized by the Partnership to Engage, Reform and Learn, that's PEARL, a project of the UK Department for International Development. In October 2017, he was chairman Senate Technical Committee on Review of Competition and Consumer Protection Council Bill, that's in February 2017, and chairman Senate Technical Committee on Review of Transportation Sector Reform Bill, March to June 2017. Dr. Sam Amadi is a fellow of the Society of Project Management and Development Professionals International, and also serves as a member of advisory board. He is happily married and blessed with children. Wow. This is fantastic, sir. This is fantastic, sir. This is fantastic. I mean, now I can see why your approach is more, how do I put it? It's much all-encompassing, basically. So it talks about the rural areas, it talks about the lower class, the middle class, and the upper class, all basically working together to ensure smooth ride of governance. But let me ask you this question, sir. Considering your wealth of knowledge and expertise, you talked about instances where governors appoint administrators in the local government areas, just like we're seeing in a lot of places. Do you think we actually, in the real sense of things, have local government in Nigeria? In the real sense of things, do you think these things actually exist? Or you only have proxies of the governor who are just there, even though they are elected, like you said, as cronies or whatever it is? But do you think this third arm is actually in existence in Nigeria?
Thank you very much. I think clearly, like I said, a local government that's not elected is not a local government in essence, because if you look at the constitution, it has 3 levels: the federal, the state, and local government. And the federal is elected. The constitution envisages that everybody in the local government, every local government should be elected. So if you have a local government that is managed by a sole administrator, at that point, it ceases to be a local government. And therefore should not receive for public allocation. Again, if you look at the quality of the elections, they are very poor. The state governors basically decide who they want. So the crisis of local governance in Nigeria and why we have very poor economic and social welfare is that the most critical component of governance, the local level, that touches, that affects mostly the things like basic education, primary education, public health care, is the local government. And so since it's not working, since it's comatose, then it's no surprise that the local government is not working itself. The economic outcome is very poor. So my view would be, look, Nigerian local government is probably a sham largely. Maybe there are a few places where one can say they're working. Maybe if you go to a place like, let's say, Saleko, they have a lot of business to harness from. Maybe if the government allows them, they can generate. But across Nigeria, we have destroyed local economy. We have destroyed local governance. And basically, everybody is living off the oil money. And that's from federal to state. And the government decides whether to pay salaries or not. And that's why you see local roads, very terrible. Those are the responsibility of local governments. Functional healthcare, basic healthcare, clinics should be the responsibility of local government. Environmental protection, sewage control, those are the responsibility of municipal authorities in UK, in Europe, in America. So because they are not working in Nigeria, it compounds the development crisis of the country.
Fantastic, sir. Fantastic. I'll come back to that question again, but before I do that, we have a question here in the chat box. It says, young people and young adults between 35 to 50 years old are our best hope to hold our political leaders accountable. Sir, what do you say about a bill to make elections into these offices for folks below 50 years?
Well, I think I'm not a fan of the politics of age, because Nigerians forget that we have had a lot of young people in government. People forget that at some point, not too far away, the senior president of this country was 38 or 39, senior president, the third in command. The House of Reps, we've had under 30 House of Reps about twice. We've had Dimeji Bankole, yes, who, if I remember, was 39 or 38. We've had Salisu Buhari, who was disgraced out of office, who was 35 then. We've had people who at 25 became commissioners. We've had even governors, between Governor Suswan, Governor, the Cross River governor who built the first Cross River governor after 1999, he was 30 something. Suswan was maybe around 38 to 40 years. So most of our governors have actually been, Fashola basically
Yaya Bello is even 34. Sorry, he's pretty young. I think he's even one of the youngest governors.
That's something of 40.
Yaya Bello, of course. Yes.
Fashola was around 40 or 42 when he became governor. So if you look at his age now, he has been governor 8 years, he has been minister for 5 years. So subtract that, no, he was chief of staff. So many young people in the National Assembly, there are some 35-year-olds, a lot of them. And interestingly, many of the young people have not even shown any degree of let's be mild, we'll say they're permanently. They've not shown great difference. So I think what the young people should do in Nigeria is not just necessarily, but yeah, they should compete and go to government. If possible, want to see a president who is 30 years, I don't mind. But what they should be doing right now is organizing and creating a different narrative about politics and leadership. So that when a young person takes over as president, maybe in the near future, he will be a young person who has built a solid understanding about governance. It doesn't have to be somebody who has been in power for 20 years. It can be a fresh person, but it's somebody who has taken time to understand, either worked with as a policy person. I was a special advisor for Senate, special advisor for Minister for Foreign Affairs before I became NEC chairman. So for over 4 or 5 years, I've been part of advising government at the 2 branches of government. So what we expect is that we should see more young people, especially going to advisory. Start from 20-something, start being assistant, start being part of the policy. Osita Chiduka was a head of a paramilitary agency in Nigeria at the age of 36 or 35, road safety, and became a minister before maybe early 40-something. He just turned 50. So he has, but people forget that before then, he has been a special advisor, a special assistant to minister, maybe at the age of 30, 28, to 35. So those years, you build relevant experience. You don't have to be Methuselah, but at least you understand the process of governance. So I want to see young people first develop a different perspective about governance. That's why they're young people. That's why they're young people. That means they are coming with certain idealism that's missing. If young people end up being like Asiwaju, or be like Oji Zokalo, or be like Ganduje, or be like any person, what's the point? So I'm not, kind of fixated about age. I want to see newness, freshness. And if youth can bring that freshness, that would be wonderful. So for me, the guys who are doing Not Too Young to Run, they were my students when I was running Kenamane Academy. I brought them up. I gathered with them, I helped them. So I believe in their mission. But I made it clear that, look, that doesn't fix the country. What fixes the country will be new ideas. I'm trying to do a small write-up I called a memo to young Nigerians, post-NSAS, a small book. An idea of is to lay out a new vision about solving the Nigerian problem to the young people, so that when they are planning to either form a party or enter into partisan politics, run for governor, House of Assembly, Senate, whatever they want to run, they at least have some kind of a guide on how to deal with the problem. So if you don't mind, I'm actually trying to go for a TV interview so that I can get ready. But if there are questions, I'd like to take them before I leave.
Okay, quickly, we have 2 to 3 more questions. We'll just run through them quickly, just to allow you, afford you some time to also prepare for your TV interview. The second one says, sir, how can someone who is from Umuahia South in Abia State but resides in Lagos hold their leaders accountable? Do they focus on holding leaders accountable in their state of residence or based on their state of origin? Knowing that an Igbo person may not want to question a Yoruba elected political leader. This is exactly what we advocate. Young people that should get involved from the bottom.
Okay, I think very simple. Look, politics and governance is not based on state of origin. If you are living in Lagos, you're Lagosian, you're working, you are paying tax there. If the government well, it affects you. So you're going to be affected by a good road. You're going to be affected by. So you're not intervening as a Yoruba or Igbo. You are intervening as a citizen of Nigeria, and of course as a resident of Lagos State. So I would say you can do both. You have to care about where you live. That's where governance impacts you. So you have to be a good citizen of Lagos State by contributing to the development through constructive criticism. At the same time, as a Nigerian, be also intervene in the governance in Umuahia, in Abia. Just like we sit here, if a government is not doing well in Sokoto, we will say that this project has not been commissioned in Sokoto. The people are running budget and all those track follow the money are not focused on their state. They are providing information for the nation. So my advice is do both. Deal with Lagos where you live. Also deal with Umuahia because they are all part of the Nigerian state. I'm not hearing you. Unmute yourself. Unmute.
Oh, sorry. Thank you very much. I says in countries like, that's from Ojo Semasa. It says in countries like USA, Russia, and others, men of 70 plus are still occupying political offices and are still leading their nation in the right direction. It's obvious that some youths are even greedier than the existing old men. How can we solve this leadership problem, considering the fact that Nigeria politics is a battle for strong men using Togri to win offices are very common? What's the way forward, sir?
Well, the way forward is not an easy way. It's a way of learning, a way of improving the system, and a way of courage. The NSAS project shows one aspect of that courage, that we can ask critical questions, we can make an effort to express outrage. So if we harness and leverage on the lessons of NSAS, we'll be able to force out bad people and get better people in. So it's a function of both the system, the processes we create, and the people who run the system. So I would say there are no easy answers. A nation is a construction, it's a work. People do it deliberately with the right kind of manual, the right kind of idea, direction, and the right spirit. We'll get there.
Wow, this is very, very fantastic, sir, coming from you this afternoon, sir. Thank you very, very much for joining us today, sir. I mean, the moment I saw those books at the background, I already had an expectation. And to a very large extent, sir, you not only met this expectation, but you surpassed them. Because there's this saying that says, a nation with good leaders produces better leaders and leadership at the end of the day. Hopefully someday we can get your type and others in office to fix the menace and the bad governance we are currently experiencing today, sir. Thank you very, very much for joining us today, sir. We sincerely appreciate that.
Let me leave one word for you. John F. Kennedy says, leading and reading, learning, reading go together. Thank you very much.
Wow, fantastic. Thank you very, very much, sir, for joining us, sir. So at this point in time, we'd allow you quickly join your meeting. We sincerely appreciate. Thank you very, very much for joining us once again, sir. All right, sir. Please have a nice day ahead. Oh, wow. That was fantastic. Sorry, guys. I just had the power outage already. Thank you very, very much for everyone who joined today. It's been fantastic. Very, very, very fantastic. I mean, today I've come to understand what Budget does, Budget Foundation, what they do. It's been amazing. It's been fantastic. So I'm seeing what next, which is number 3 from a slide coming up. And it says, know your representative with their numbers and email. That is from www.shineyoureyes.org. I mean, so we have quite a lot of them today. One of it also is me.yourbudget.com, tracker.ng, shine your eyes, like we're seeing on the screen, and then openstate.ng. This way you can know how much is allocated to your constituencies and local governments and be able to demand accountability. And Dr. Amadi has actually talked a lot about so many things. And one of it is the fact that the best way to change the system is by constructive criticism and joining the system or trying to affect the system from wherever you are, not just from your locality or your local government, but as a Nigerian, addressing Nigeria's issues and all of that. That way we can actually cause a change at the end of the day. It's been fantastic. I've learned quite a lot, and I know you have also. From my end here, I'd like to briefly tell us something, which I bet or some of us might not know. This is NIGAC, which is Nigerian Global Affairs Council. And NIGAC is a technology-based and digital media-driven public policy and evidence-based research think tank focused on policy concerns that revolve around governance and public administration within the Nigerian state and how we interact with the larger world. I bet you all have learned one or two things today, just like I have. And I believe that a quick stroll from here to our website, that's nigac.org, would actually put you through quite a lot of these informations and all of that, and get to learn new things every day, just like we're doing. So before we wrap up at this point, I'd like to call on Elder David. Elder David is the president in council for Nigerian Global Affairs Council, for probably any last words before we round up this this session. Sorry, Elder, are you there? Hello, Elder, are you there? All right, so it is safe to say that at this point in time, we'll be wrapping up at this point. Thank you very, very much, everyone, for joining us. We sincerely appreciate you joining this session today. And please keep a date with us. We organize policy dialogue on topical issues within the Nigerian system. Keep a date with us. Follow us. Follow our social media handle. We're on Facebook. We're on LinkedIn. We are on Instagram and all of that. And keep abreast with current trends within the Nigerian state and even the things that affect you and I directly and indirectly. That way, we all can better demand accountability and transparency in the system. It's 3:30 already, as we promised, and we would not like to keep you beyond your time. Thank you very much, everyone, once again, for joining us in this policy session, which centered on our elected legislators and the budgeting system, and then how to hold them accountable to how much they get, how much they spend, and everything regarding the budgetary aspect of things, and how best to tackle the system. Thank you very much once again, everyone, for joining us. We sincerely appreciate. Please enjoy the rest of your day once again. And then if you check